Assalamu alaikum. Masinu?
Then his handle. I poured all the blood out.
Masin. نحمده ونصلي على رسول النبي الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قال الله تعالى في شان حبيبي إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا مولانا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها وآله وصحبه دائما أبدا. صلاة وسلاما عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm just going to ask for everyone's attention for a short time. Of course, everything's relative. Again, the purpose of coming here in general is to learn something. To learn something doesn't just simply mean, and it actually does not mean just, knowing some facts. As we talked about this Jummah, these days, everything's a fact. Everything's an alternative fact. What we're dealing with here now is, again, the reality of what will benefit us down the road, and especially what will benefit us in the next life. And so if we don't know the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, and we don't love them, then how can we expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to love us? Of course, the purpose tonight, or the main purpose tonight, is to talk about Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddique radiallahu anhu. And because of time, which is always a factor, people get tired, and then everyone's thinking, when is he going to stop? I'm going to cover just a few things, but try to cover them in some detail. And then if there's time, then go with some general things. But to begin with, in general, the connection of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and with the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, didn't simply begin when he was born. This connection actually existed even before. His father, Abu Quhafa, was a very close friend of the grandfather of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hazrat Abdul Muttalib radiallahu anhu. Even though there's a big age gap, they were very close friends. And when Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was born, his father brought him to his close friend Hazrat Abdul Muttalib radiallahu anhu and asked him to name him. And so Hazrat Abdul Muttalib gave him the name Abdul Kaaba. This was his original name, was Abdul Kaaba. Abu Bakr is his kunya, that's his nickname. When Islam came, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam named him Abdullah. So Hazrat Abdul Muttalib made him the servant of the Kaaba, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made him the servant of the Lord of the Kaaba. If you look at him before Islam, he was the richest man in Mecca. Literally, he was the richest man in Mecca. And when I say man, I mean male. He wasn't the richest person in Mecca, because that was Bibi Khadija radiallahu anha, but he was the richest man in Mecca. And he would spend all of this wealth on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and on the household of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was also chief justice among Quraysh. The last appeal as far as murder cases would come to him. So his status among Quraysh before Islam was very honored and respected. Of course, when Islam came, if people are going to turn against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then who else can't they turn against? If they're going to turn against the one who they themselves call Sadiq al-Amin, then who is Abu Bakr? Abu Bakr radiallahu, of course, was a close friend of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam since childhood. Very close, grew up together. And then when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam married Bibi Khadija, they literally became neighbors. He saw a dream in which he saw that, one night he saw this dream before Islam, that he saw that the moon fell out, or part of the moon fell out of the sky and landed in his lap. And he never told this dream to anyone except to one Christian monk who he met, who was in his heart Muslim, because he was expecting the coming of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Abu Bakr, he asked this man, because he saw this man and he saw, this nur, and nur literally means the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this man. So he asked him, he says, I saw this dream, so what does this mean? So he told him, he said that this means that the prophet that has been promised to come has already been born, and you will be among his followers. So when revelation came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for him to announce his prophethood, prophethood did not come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the age of 40. The hadith is in Bukhari, and even if the hadith wasn't there, it's just common sense. In the hadith in Bukhari, when Jabir asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, when was prophethood conveyed upon you? He said what? He says that I was already a prophet. Before Adam al-Islam was, or when Adam al-Islam was between clay and water. So he didn't tell him when, because he can't tell him when. He says before. It's like if you ask somebody, when were you born? And he says, well, I was born before 1970. Well, he didn't tell you when he was born. He told you before. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't tell him when he became a prophet, because he was already a prophet before there was time. Before the existence of time, the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prophethood was already conveyed upon him. And so when the revelation comes, and now it's time for him to start declaring his prophethood. Abu Bakr, when he would go on a journey, even before Islam, the last person he would meet would be Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when he would come back from a trip, the first person he would meet would be Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when the revelation came, Abu Bakr was gone on a business trip. And so when he returns, he's coming to meet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is coming to meet him, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells him what's happened, that revelation has come, and I am a prophet. And Abu Bakr didn't ask any other questions. He says, I accept. He says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Which is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that everyone else asked for proof except Abu Bakr. But then after this, then Abu Bakr says, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I accept you without proof. But give me something that I can tell the people. You know, because I have to prove it to the people. So give me something now so I can convince them. So Rasulullah says, what about the dream that you saw? You know, Abu Bakr never told him about the dream. He says, what about the dream that you saw, where you saw the part of the moon fall into your lap? You know, and you asked this rahib, this monk, and this is what he told you. You know, because the definition of Nabi is the one who brings the knowledge of the unseen. And so this is the proof that Abu Bakr would use. And if you look, 6 of the Ashar Mubashara came to Rasulullah through Abu Bakr. The exceptions are Sayyid bin Zayd, Umar, and Ali. Of course, Abu Bakr, and then the other 6 all came through. You know, Abu Bakr is the one who brought them to Rasulullah. He is the only companion of Rasulullah who is explicitly mentioned in the Quran as a companion of Rasulullah. All the others are implied. He is the only one who is explicit. So to deny his companionship is to deny the Quran. And the verse is in Surah Tawbah, Surah number 9, verse number 40, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives a warning to the believers. You know, إِلَّا تَنْصُرُوهُ. You know, that if you do not help him, فَقَدْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have already helped him. You know, if you don't help him, I have already helped him. You know, and here already helped him. He has helped him before, he is continuing to help him, and he'll always help him. فَقَدْ نَصْرَ اللَّهُ إِذْ أَخْرَجَهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. You know, when the kuffar, they expelled him from, talking about when he made hijrah, when the kuffar of Quraysh, they expelled him from Makkah. ثاني اثنين إذ هما في الغار إذ يقول لصاحبه لا تحزن إن الله معنا. You know, and he was one of the 2 that were in the cave, and Rasulullah says to his companion, لصاحبه, to his companion, to his sahabi, لا تحزن. I mean, he didn't say do not fear. He didn't say لا تخف. You know, because khawf is for yourself. That I fear for myself. He says, لا تحزن إن الله معنا. That Allah is with us. You know, do not worry, Allah is with us. Because he wasn't worried or fearing for himself. He was worried about what they would do to his beloved. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Abu Bakr then wasn't worried about himself. This is why Rasulullah said, لا تحزن إن الله معنا. Allah is with us. You know, Musa al-Islam said to his people, Allah is with me. Rasulullah says to his companion, Allah is with us. Now this is the distinction of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. The 2 incidents that I want to talk about, because the implications and the lessons apply, you know, all of them apply all the time. But, you know, in today's environment, especially with the resurgence of certain types of people, you know, are very important to understand. And I'm not going to go over them in chronological order. The first is to do with the Battle of Yamama. And to understand that, first you have to understand when Rasulullah when he passed, when the wafat of Rasulullah took place, when he fulfilled his promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fulfilled his promise to him, all of Arabia, with the exception of Hijaz and a few other areas, all apostated, all became murtad, all rejected Islam. You know, so with the exception of Makkah, Medina, Ta'if, and then parts of Bahrain, at that time not modern day Bahrain, but that time Bahrain, where Mundhir bin Sawa was the leader. With the exception, with the exception of these areas, every place apostated in various forms. You had some who said, you know, we will not give zakat. And so the issue came up, okay, what do you do? And so because the army had already left Medina, 3,000 men, there was no one to fight the enemy, or rather very few people to fight the enemy. And so all of the companions, including Umar, came to Abu Bakr and said, Ya Khalifatul Rasul, compromise with them. Compromise them for the time being and we'll deal with them later. Abu Bakr said that no, I will not compromise with them. And he says, if I have to, I will fight them alone. And so, this moved them, so they started seeing, the perspective of Abu Bakr and seeing the correctness of his perspective. So they start shifting over. But then the issue came up, well, these people that they don't give zakat, how can we fight them? They're still Muslim. So then the issue comes to Sayyidina Ali, radiallahu anhu, Mushkil Kusha, the alleviator of difficulties. So he came to the rescue and to alleviate the difficulties of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu. So when the question was placed before him, he recited part of a verse, and verse number 6 of Surah Fussilat, Surah number 41, and all of verse number 7. And he starts off with Waylul lil Mushrikeen, which is the end of verse number 6. Woe unto the Mushrikeen, the polytheists. الذين لا يؤتون الزكاة وهم بالآخرة هم كافرون. And those who refuse to give zakat, they are in the end or in the akhirah, they are kafir. They are disbelievers. So Ali radiallahu says, that this argument that, we can't fight the Muslims, they are not Muslims. It's one thing you don't give zakat. It's another thing to say that I will not give the zakat. To refuse a fard or to deny a fard is kufr. And so when Ali radiallahu gives this fatwa, then all of the companions now rally behind Abu Bakr radiallahu. And so, you have the Rida wars where they start fighting, and all of the people, or most of the people, start coming back into the fold of Islam. At the same time, you have various people who've stood up and declared themselves as prophets. Dulayha and some others, and there was one prophetess, and there were four prophets. One prophetess, so 5 people. One prophetess and 4 prophets. And the most famous of these so-called prophets was Musaylima, who had declared his prophethood during the end time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But then, no one listened to him at that point. But then, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passes, now he starts gaining followers. And all of these armies that were losing to the army of Abu Bakr, those who would remain, who would escape the battles, would then go and join Musaylima's army. So he amasses this huge army, thousands and thousands of men. And he's in Yamama, which is directly north of modern-day Riyadh. Actually it's part of modern-day Riyadh. This is Najd. The place of fitna, Qarn al-Shaytan, the horn of Shaitan, which literally means the followers of Shaitan. The era of Shaitan will arise from there. When the issue came up when finally all of the other places were defeated, this was to be the last battle of this issue. And in order to understand the decision-making process here, we have to understand how laws are made in Islam. And of course, or rulings are made in Islam. So everybody knows the Quran and the Sunnah. So you have the Quran and you have the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also gave us something that is known as ijma, which is consensus of the righteous scholars who have the knowledge to actually make a true rightful decision. So it's not just for everybody. So if you look for something in the Quran and you can't find it directly, then you look in the Sunnah, the Hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if you can't find that there, then you look and see if there was a decision made where there was an ijma, where there was a consensus. There are three kinds of ijma though. You have ijma sari, which is, and here I'm getting a little technical, but it's important to understand. Ijma sari is where all of these righteous scholars openly state their opinion and say, this is my opinion, and they all agree upon the same opinion. There's no dispute as to what the opinion is. You have ijma sukuti, which is where most of them state their opinion and they agree upon it, but you have some who don't say anything. Imam Shafi'i does not accept ijma sukuti. He says it's not ijma. Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah accepts it, but not at the level of ijma sari. We're going to come back to this one. And then you have ijma murakkab, which is basically stating that you have a consensus that there is no consensus. So you have certain scholars saying this opinion, certain scholars saying this opinion, and certain scholars saying this opinion. So now there's an agreement, okay, these are the opinions that are legitimate. Okay. Anything outside of that is not legitimate, but these are all legitimate. And that's it. Later generation can't come back and say, oh, we're going to pick this one out of this group and we're going to reject the rest. You can't do that. Okay. But to deny ijma sari, where all of the righteous scholars make this opinion and state the opinion, to deny that is kufr. Normally, again, the process is if you can't find it in the Quran or if you can't find it in the Hadith, then you look if there's an ijma. However, sometimes you have ijma on something that is clearly stated in the Quran and clearly stated in the Hadith, so that later generations can't come back and say, well, this word means this. They say, no, that means this. And so, when the battle against Musaylama is to take place, and of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran refers to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as Khatamun Nabiyyin, the last of prophets. The Hadiths are very clear. La Nabiyya Ba'di, that there is no prophet after me. Very clear. But there was a consensus among the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that this is exactly what this means. So if anybody comes back later on and says, no, Khatam means that he's a seal, because Musaylama did not deny the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is something important to understand. He never denied the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the prophet of Hijaz and I am the prophet of Najd. And he also went as far as to say that my prophethood is sanctioned by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has placed a seal upon my prophethood. And if you know what's going on today, this is the exact wording and the exact argument that Mirza Qadiani uses and his followers. And so this is what Musaylama said. And the companions, they said no. Khatamun Nabiyyin means that he is the last prophet and there is no more prophet after him. And this is also the kufr of Qasim Nanatwi. Those who don't know who Qasim Nanatwi is, Qasim Nanatwi is one of the founders of Deoband. He's one of the two that they mention in their theme song. If you've ever heard of the theme song, he's in there. They have a theme song. That's part of the propaganda. But he wrote a book, Tahzir al-Nas, in which he says that the average man thinks that there's some virtue in being the last. But the educated people know that there's no virtue in being last. So Khatam al-Nabiyyin doesn't mean he's the last prophet. It means that he's the zenith and the pinnacle of prophets. And he says, La Nabiyya Ba'di doesn't mean that there's no prophet after him. It means that there's no prophet of that level after him. Here's what he says clearly in his book. And he says, and even if a prophet were to come after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it would not change the fact that he is Khatam al-Nabiyyin. So not long after he publishes this book, Mirza Qadiani says, well, if this is what you say, then I am the prophet. But again, not only does the Quran says there's no prophet after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says there's no prophet after him, and there's ijma of the companions that there's no prophet after him. So under this understanding, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh gathers an army of 13,000 companions. And at the head of that army, he places Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh as the general of this army. If you accept this ijma, Khatam al-Nabiyyin, then there's also another ijma that came from this same battle that you also have to accept. Because as the army is about to leave, the orders of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh were initially, when they fought everybody else, were that when you go and fight, when you go to a town, you wait for Fajr. If you hear the adhan, you do not attack. If you do not hear the adhan, then you attack. The problem was that Musaylama didn't change the adhan. They still call the adhan the same way we call adhan. Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah. Exactly the same. He didn't change the iqamah. He didn't even change his salat. The only thing he said was, well, Fajr and Isha are hard, so, they're not obligations on you. You don't have to make them if you don't want to. So let's make it easy. But he didn't change the salat. He didn't change the adhan. He didn't change anything other than he said, I'm a prophet. And he also said liquor was legal. These two things he did. Everything else was exactly the same. Same thing today. If you watch a Qadiani making salat, you can't tell the difference. It's exactly the same. So the companions, they come to Abu Bakr and they say, Ya Khalifatul Rasul, we are going to fight an army that looks like us, they speak like us, they dress like us, they make adhan like us, and they make iqamah like us. So how will we know who is who? The practice of Rasulullah ﷺ was that he would give the army a code word, a shot. That when you go into battle and you see somebody that you don't recognize. The thing is, you have to understand, this wasn't like a soccer match, you got different colored jerseys. This was war. They were wearing armor. Most of them, their faces were hidden. Not everybody knew everybody in the army anyway. So how do you know who is who? In Europe, they had different weapons. Here you have the same weapons. In Europe, the armies, they'd have different armor. Here you have the same armor. So how do you know? So Rasulullah ﷺ would give them a code word that if you see somebody in the battlefield and you're not sure who it is, then you say the code word, and if he reciprocates, then you know that this is one of us. And if he does not, then you know that this is the enemy of Allah and his messenger. So the code word for Badr was Ahad. They were fighting the mushrikeen. So the code word was Ahad. You see somebody, you're not sure, you say Ahad. Of course, the mushrikeen, they hated the word. It reminded them of Bilal. They said Ahad, and what happens now? If they don't say it, you immediately know who it is. So when they come to Abu Bakr with this, how will we know? He said the code word for this battle will be Ya Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if you see somebody and you don't know who it is, you say Ya Muhammad. This whole army, 13,000 companions of Rasulullah ﷺ, all of the companions who are scholars, who are in this army, who did not even go, and some of them did not go in the army because Abu Bakr kept them back. They all agreed upon this. This is ijma. Not only did they agree, they put it into practice. Because as they were going for the battle, if they saw somebody coming, and this is even before they reached Yamama, and they weren't sure who it was, they would say, Ya Muhammad. And if he had an issue with it, then they knew who it was. And if he did not, then they also knew who it was. And during the battle, because this was the most difficult battle that the companions said they had, 700 Huffaz were martyred in this battle. Many companions, to the extent that at one point they thought they were going to lose. Khalid radiallahu anhu is the flag bearer of the Muslims. He is the general of the Muslims. There's no question who he is. He's holding the flag of the believers. When he sees the condition of the believers, he goes on a hill, faces Medina Munawwara, faces his wasila, and he calls out from there, he says, Ya Muhammada, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And when he returns, the condition of the battle is turned. Washi kills Musaylima, radiallahu anhu, kills Musaylima, the liar, and eventually the battle is ended. So if you agree that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Khatim al-Nabiyyin, that there's no prophet after him, then you also have to agree that there are no issues, and not only there are no issues, but you should say, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You should call out to your wasila. The interesting thing is, even Ibn Kathir in Al-Badaya wa Nihaya, he mentions this. He acknowledges this was the decision of Abu Bakr. Shh. There's plenty of time to socialize outside of here. And again, the purpose is to come and learn, and it's kind of hard to learn when you're not listening, unless you know everything. But it's a distraction to those who want to listen, and sometimes becomes a distraction to the speaker, and then you can't follow your train of thought, and the speech gets longer and longer and longer. And then unfortunately, though, even when you say this, things fall on deaf ears. But Allah help us. The other issue that I want to talk about that came up during the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is the issue of fidaq. And I guess I could ask this question two ways. I'll probably ask it both ways. Who knows what fidaq is? Just show your hands. Raise a hand. Who knows what fidaq is? Who doesn't know what fidaq is? Raise your hands. The Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had certain property that was his own. That was his personal property. In battle, if there was a fight, you had the spoils of war, anfal, the spoils of war, which 20% was for Allah and His Messenger, and the remaining 80% was distributed among the soldiers. You had other people, and the earliest example of this is Mukhayriq, who was a Jew initially, and during the Battle of Uhud, he comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and just to make this short, he comes to him, he says, he accepts Islam on the day of Uhud, and he says, Ya Rasulullah, I feel that I will be martyred in this battle, and I have 7 gardens that all have wells in them, and all of those, if something happens to me, then they are all yours. Of course, he was martyred. He was one of the first martyrs in the battle, and all of that property came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who made it waqf, a charitable trust for the believers. You had other battles, or not battles, but you had expeditions where the Muslims went, the opposing army gave up without fighting. That is known as faith. All of that came into the property of Rasulullah, 100%. So fidaq is one of those areas that was fay. When Khaybar was conquered, Khaybar was this massive oasis controlled by the Jews. Fidaq was a smaller oasis close to Khaybar, also controlled by the Jews. When the Jews of Khaybar fell, the Jews of Khaybar came to Rasulullah and says that we want to surrender on the same terms as you have given to the people of Khaybar. And he agreed. The household of Rasulullah, he would use the proceeds from fidaq to take care of his household. Specifically the household of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. So, I mean, you can imagine all of the property that under all of these terms becomes the personal property of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 20% of Khaybar, you have all of these gardens that have been given to him, all of these other areas that have surrendered, all of that is his. Yet he has assigned it as a charitable trust for the believers. Again, the only property that he used for personal finances was fida. And so when Rasulullah Sallallahu passes, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he took all of this property, including fida, and he placed it in the Baytul Mal, in the public treasury, without giving any explanation for why he has done what he has done. To understand what Bibi Fatima Salamullah alayha does after this, we have to understand certain things. One is that, if you're looking at a situation, you cannot judge the situation unless you know the people that are in the situation, their personality, their character. And to give you an example of this, if I make a statement that he cut John's chest open, it makes a huge difference in what you understand if the he that I'm talking about is a murderer, or if that same he is a cardiothoracic surgeon. Two different issues here now. The same thing, another example of this is when Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam comes back from Miraj. And of course, the Quraysh of Makkah, they say, tell us something that we can verify what you're saying. So he told them about a caravan that was on its way back to Makkah, and he told them where it was. And so they judged from where he's telling them as to when it should enter the city. So every day Abu Bakr and Abu Jahl would take a group of people to go wait on the outskirts of Makkah to see if this caravan comes. And Abu Bakr would do the same thing with some people. They would go and sit on the outskirts and wait for this caravan to come. But again, the intentions are totally different. Abu Jahl is going because he wants to say, see, he was wrong. Abu Bakr is going because he wants to prove, to show the fact that nothing can come from the lips of Rasulullah except the truth. The caravan was delayed for a few days because they lost one of their camels. They went around looking, and of course the delay, they said, see, he was wrong. And then when the caravan arrived, and Abu Bakr is the first to come to them, he says, why are you late? It's not like, where were you? He says, why are you late? He knows. They said, our camel, and we got delayed because of this and this and this. We would have been here, so many days before, which would have been when they should have arrived. Okay? So again, even though the actions are the same, but the intentions and the characters are different. So if I say Abu Bakr went out, waiting for this caravan, it's totally different image than Abu Jahl going out and doing the same thing. Okay? So this is something we have to understand when we talk about fida. Bibi Fatima Salamullah alayha, she gets her father's uncle, Hazrat Abbas. And this is very important, why she picks Abbas to come. And she comes to Abu Bakr, and she says, she asked for fida. She says, where's fida? And Abu Bakr, at that moment, he says, that it's in Baytul Mal, because, now he gives the explanation. He says, because Rasulullah Sallallahu says that we, the prophets, do not leave any inheritance. And whatever we leave is for the ummah. Abbas is there, and when Abu Bakr says this, because people claim that this is khabar wahid, and I'm not going to get into the technicalities of that. But it's not. It's not, just one person reporting it. Because when he said it, Abbas, who's there, says, now I remember. Ali radiallahu anh, later on he says, yes, I remember. And there are other companions who say, yes, we remember. Bibi Fatima salamullah alayha, she leaves. She doesn't say anything further. And she goes back home. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh also makes a statement at that time. He says that if it was left up to me, then I would have given it to her. Because I prefer to do good to the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than I prefer to do good to myself. But he says it's not left up to me. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam already made his decision. There are people who say, oh, see, she got very upset, so she didn't say anything to him. And she left. She was mad. And there are narrations that insinuate this. And this is what they take it from. And people, they take these narrations out of context. But again, if I'm judging the actions of somebody, I have to judge them based upon who the person is. You look at Bibi Fatima. One is, we've talked about Abu Bakr. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more in a minute. But we look, and one point to remember and why this is important today as well. This is the month of Rabiul Thani. And remember Abu Bakr in this month because this is the month that he passed on the 22nd of this month. This is also the month, which most people don't know, this is the month of the birth of Bibi Fatima. Salamullah alayhi. So she goes back, and people say, oh, she didn't say anything because she was mad. She is the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not just any daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She is the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for whom he said, bidatu minni. That she is two parts of me. She is the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for whom the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that they never, including Bibi Aisha Siddique radiallahu and Bibi Hafsa, the daughter of Abu Bakr radiallahu and the daughter of Umar radiallahu anhu. They said that we never saw anyone more on the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam than Bibi Fatima. To the extent that when she walked, they could not recognize that if it was her walking or if it was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam walking. There are two companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and my father mentioned about Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. But there are two companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for whom if anybody came and complained against them, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would rebuke the one who was complaining. People would come and complain about Umar and how hard he was, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would hear them out. They would come and complain about various other companions, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would hear them out. But there were two that he would not even listen to any complaints against. And the two are Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajh. That if anybody complained about them, he would rebuke them for complaining against them. So if you look at the action of Bibi Fatima, she is going to defend the honor of her father's friend. Because he did this action without giving any explanation, which then would for later generations, the possibility of somebody saying, oh, see, he just did this on his own. But now she forces him to give an explanation. The other thing that she's doing is defending the honor of her father. Because the accusation of Quraysh and the Arabs was, the accusation of Quraysh and the Arabs was that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was doing all of this, to build up a kingdom. That's what they said, he's just like a king, like any other king. And now by leaving the door of Abu Bakr radiallahu without anything in hand, she is proving them wrong. If this was about building a kingdom, then all of this wealth would have come to the household of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And yet none of it did. But Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, when he makes the decision also, he also says that I will continue to spend this money the way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spent the money. So he continued to use the proceeds of Fidak on the household of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But he says I cannot hand it over because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said I cannot do that. There is a narration. There's a book by a scholar, Allama Badruddin Aini, Umdatul Qari Sharah Bukhari. Sharah is to Hadith as tafsir is to Quran. The easiest way to understand that. So these are explanations of the Hadith. And so Imam or Allama Badruddin Aini, he wrote a tafsir of Bukhari. Another tafsir of Bukhari that's well known is Fatah al-Bari, Sharah Bukhari, which is from Ibn Hajar Asqalani. These two are basically contemporaries. And in that, when he talks about this issue, he mentions a narration in which that night, after Abu Bakr had made this decision, he felt that perhaps she might be upset with him, because she left without saying anything. Because she'd completed her purpose. There was nothing else for her to say. This is the woman who, when she was asked what is the best salat of the women, she said that to make the salat in the innermost room of the house with the door closed. This is the one who said, if I die at night, then bury me at night. She said, so no one can see me. She wasn't going to be out for long, and she wasn't in the habit of talking to men, who are not mahram. The reason she took her uncle with her, because he had no right to any of the inheritance from the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he was from a different mother than the father of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that gets into some technicalities of the distribution of wiratha in Islam, of inheritance in Islam, but he had no right to it. So if she went to go argue about, inheritance, she should have taken somebody who had a right to the inheritance. She did not. Again, showing that her intention was something totally different. But that night, Abu Bakr comes to the house, and he knocks on the door of Ali. And when Ali answers the door, he says, Ya Khalifa Rasul, Ya Abu Bakr, what brings you here? And Abu Bakr, he says to him, that I'm concerned that perhaps she might be upset with me, for this decision that I have made based on the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah. He says, even though I've made this decision on this, I'm not satisfied that she should be upset with me under any conditions. So Ali says, wait. And he goes to his wife and he says, Abu Bakr has come. She says, why has he come? He said he'd come to ask for frequency. She said, well, let him in. So arrangements were made and Abu Bakr comes. And he says to her, he says, لا خير في عيش عريشها. That there is no good and joy in life. And then he continues, he says, there's no joy or good in life. And this is, you have to understand, this is a man who is the leader of the Muslims. He is Khalifa. He has control over all of this. This is a man who basically is the indecision. He says there's no good in living life, or in the joys of, there's no joy in life, if you are upset with me. And then he says to her, he says, and ما تركت المال والعال وإيالا وَزِيَا وَأُخْرَى. That I did not leave my wealth. And again, as I said, he was the richest man in Mecca. When he became Muslim, 40,000 dirham. Dirham is the silver coin. At a time when you could buy a cow for 3 dirham. So, rough estimate there, 1 dirham, 300 bucks, roughly. As far as buying power at that time. So 40,000 dirham. All of which he spent on Rasulullah. And at the time of Hijrah, and which is what he's referring to, at the time of Hijrah, he had 5,000 dirham. Again, do the math. 5,000 times 300. 1.5 million dollars. He takes all of that wealth, leaving nothing for the family, and he says, I'm going to spend this on Rasulullah. He said, I did not leave my wealth, my children. Because when they made Hijrah, they had to leave everything. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu left his children in Mecca. Who knew what the Quraysh would do? There are many companions who had to just, get up and leave with nothing but the clothes on their backs when they made Hijrah. He said, I did not leave my wealth, my children, my wife. Narration in Bukhari. Shortly before the Hijrah, he got married to a woman from Bani Kalb. And when he told her, because this was so secretive, they wouldn't even tell close family members everything. When he told her that I'm going to Medina with the Rasulullah, she said, how can you leave? You just married me. How can you leave me? So he says, well, is the issue with me leaving you the marriage to you? Yes. He said, well, I can take care of that. He divorced her. He says, there's nothing coming between me and the Rasulullah. He left his house, his animals. He says, إِلَّا لِبْتِغَى مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ وَمَرْضَاتِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ وَمَرْضَاتِكُمْ أَهْلِ بَيْتِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. I did not leave all of these things except for the pleasure of Allah, the pleasure of His Rasul, and the pleasure of you, the household of Rasulullah. Because there are people today, we only do for the pleasure of Allah, which is interesting. When we talked about this a few Jummahs back, for those who come here. The first hadith in many books of hadith, and especially in 40 hadiths of Imam Nisai, Imam Nawawi, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, that every action is by its intention. But then if you look at the rest of the hadith, Rasulullah says what? In the later part of these, he says, whoever's hijrah or immigration was for Allah and His Messenger. His immigration was for Allah and His Messenger. I was reading an explanation by this so-called scholar from Medina University, who's in Malaysia now, Jamal Badi. And he mentions the hadith, he translates the hadith, no problems, and then now he goes into his commentary, and there are many things that are messed up, but part of it he says, see, from this hadith, we do everything for Allah alone, for no one else but Allah alone. Because they wanted to create that separation between Allah and the Messenger. Rasulullah says for Allah and His Messenger. Abu Bakr says for Allah and His Messenger and for the household of Rasulullah, for Ahlul Bayt. And these guys say, no. The Messenger and the Ahlul Bayt, they don't matter. It's for Allah alone. And then the Muslims wonder why we're in such condition. If we separate ourselves from Allah, then to think that we are close, if we separate ourselves from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then to think that we are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a delusion. So Abu Bakr, this is what he says. And Bibi Fatima Salamullah alayhi, she accepts him. To the extent that, when Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was about to pass, his daughter was crying. And he calls her and he says something to her. And now she starts laughing. What did he say to her? He told her that she would be the first to come and join him among the family. And so 6 months later, in the month of Ramadan, she passes. The way she passes, she passed after Maghrib. And before she passed, she made a ghusl. She changed her clothes. And she laid down and she told her husband that you don't need to give me ghusl. It's already done. And she joyfully goes. Because to meet Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is joy. That's why, when he was passing, she's crying, and when he tells her, you're going to be the first to come and meet me, now she's laughing. You tell most people, 6 months later you're going to die, and they start crying. Here's the opposite. She passes after Maghrib, and when she passed, the narrator of this hadith is Imam Malik. And to understand Imam Malik, because you can't say he's biased, because Imam Malik rahmatullahi says that the best of creation after the prophets is not Abu Bakr radiallahu. He says it's not even Ali radiallahu. He says the best of creation after the prophets is Bibi Fatima salamullah alayha. And you can't argue with his reasoning either, because he says, how can I give preference to anyone other than to anyone over the part of Rasulullah? Because Rasulullah says, she's two parts of me. He said, how can I give preference to anyone over the part of Rasulullah? This is the decision of Imam Malik rahmatullah. He is the narrator of this. He heard it from who? He heard it from Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam, who heard it from his father, Imam Muhammad Bakr alayhi salam, who heard it from his father, Imam Zain al-Abidin Ali alayhi salam, who heard it from his father, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That when Bibi Fatima salamullah alayha, when she passed, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Zubair and Abdul Rahman bin Auf radiallahu anhum, they came. And when the preparations were made for the funeral, for Salatul Janaza, Ali radiallahu requested Abu Bakr, or rather Abu Bakr radiallahu said to Ali radiallahu, lead the Salat. And Ali radiallahu said no. He says, you will lead the Salat. Because I remember, he says, because I remember the words, or I still hear the words of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saying that in the nation where Abu Bakr is, no one else has the right to lead Salat. And so Abu Bakr radiallahu is the one who led the Salatul Janaza of Bibi Fatima salamullah alayha. Again, if there were some issues between them, do you think Abu Bakr radiallahu, one is, would Abu Bakr radiallahu even have gone? And would Ali radiallahu have allowed him to lead the Salat? When Abu Bakr, and I'm going to end with this, because it is getting late. When Abu Bakr radiallahu was about to pass, several things that he did. One of the first things he did was he had a bowl and he had a few other things, a couple of other things, a camel that he had from Baytul Mal that he used to travel and for state affairs. So he called his children and he said, all of these things need to go back to Baytul Mal. So he never used anything from Baytul Mal. The other thing that he did, he told his children how to distribute his wealth, what he had left, which was not much. And he tells his daughter Aisha Siddique, he says that, this part of the wealth, he tells his son that the two sons will distribute this part of the wealth. And he says to Aisha Siddique, he says, this part of the wealth we distributed among my 3 daughters. And Aisha Siddique, she says to her father, she says, you only have 2 daughters. It was her and her older sister Asma. She said, so he says to her, he says that my wife is expecting and it will be a daughter. Again, no secret came to the heart of Rasulullah that Rasulullah didn't pass on to the heart of Abu Bakr. You know, and if knowledge of the unseen, because you know, if you look at how Quraysh used to test Rasulullah, how would they test him? They say, if you are a prophet, then tell me this. You know, Abu Jahl coming, if you are a prophet, then tell me what's in my hand. Because again, the prophet tells you the things of the unseen. And Abu Bakr radiallahu, the miracles of the ummati of a prophet parallel the miracles of the prophet. The first miracle that Rasulullah showed to Abu Bakr radiallahu, other than just his life, was what? Again, he told him about the dream he had had. When they were sitting for Badr, for the Battle of Badr, this man was allowed to come and meet Rasulullah. And he came to Rasulullah and he says to Rasulullah, if you are a prophet, this Bedouin, he comes with his camel, he says, if you are a prophet, then tell me what's in the belly of my camel. Rasulullah didn't like the question, and he turned his face. You know, because if he tells him, oh, it's a she camel, then, you know, and it's born, then, well, I mean, anybody could have guessed 50-50. Rasulullah, you know, didn't like the question, he turned his face. Abu Bakr takes the man to the corner and he says, look, you're asking him what's in the belly of your camel. I can tell you that on such and such a day, under such and such a tree, you committed such and such an act. So he tells his daughter, he says that, you know, tells Aisha, see, you know, yes, there are 2 now, but there will be 3 soon. And you distribute the wealth among the 3 of you. The people came and they asked him. They said, Ya Khalifatul Rasul, you know, when you die, where should we bury you? So he says what to them? He says, look, I never made a decision in my life alone. Because Abu Bakr never made a decision in his life without consulting a Rasulullah. Even everything that he does during his Khilafah is under the guidance of Rasulullah. So he said, I never made a decision on my own and I'm not going to start now. So he says, so take me, you know, in front of the Rawda of Rasulullah and tell him that his friend is come, and if there's something that indicates that I should be buried there, bury me there, otherwise bury me in Baqi. And he calls Ali, and he asks Ali, he says, bathe me with the same hands that you bathe the Rasulullah. You know, because the ghusl of Rasulullah was done by Ali. And as he would be giving, and the only reason they did the ghusl for Rasulullah was to make it sunnah for the ummah. You know, because there's no salatul janazah like we make salatul janazah for Rasulullah, because you can't ask for forgiveness for Rasulullah. You know, to ask to say, oh Allah, forgive him, this is actually a form of kufr. Because you're implicating that he committed some sin. You know, just like the salatul janazah for the innocent child, there's no asking for forgiveness. Allahumma ja'alana fardan wa ja'alana zukhran wa ajran. You know, there's no forgiveness because they're already forgiven, they're masum. So when Sayyidul Masumeen passes, then how can you say Allahumma fir hayyana wa mayyitina? I mean, you can't do that. Which is why for Rasulullah they would come in groups of 10, recite Salatul Salam and then move on. But as Ali was bathing him, you know, the water that would collect in his eyes and in his navel, he would suck it up. You know, but Abu Bakr says, bathe me with the same hands that you bathe the Rasulullah. So the ghusl of Abu Bakr was done by Sayyidina Ali. And then when he passed, they took him to the Rawda of Rasulullah. And as he had ordered, they placed him there and they said, you know, that you're, Ya Rasulullah, this is Abu Bakr. The door to the Rawda opened by itself. You know, they opened and they heard the voice coming that bring the friend to the friend quickly. And so this is why Abu Bakr is buried next to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's more, huh? Half more hours. That's one of man's opinion. Should we take a vote? Business. It's 9:25. Yeah, it's 9:25. If I do half an hour more, we're getting close to 10. Of course, most people aren't, well, Desis are used to eating late, but not everybody's used to eating late. So, if people understand this much, and remember this much, I think there's plenty. But if, again, you look at the sacrifices, as my father had mentioned, Rasulullah said that I have fulfilled the obligations or the rights of everybody upon me except for the rights of Abu Bakr. And the interesting thing was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Jibreel alayhi salam to Rasulullah to ask Abu Bakr, that all of the favors that he's done to Rasulullah should be fulfilled. And Abu Bakr, his response to Rasulullah was that, Ya Rasulullah, all of my wealth and myself are nothing except for you. Meaning what? That he's saying he has no right upon his own wealth or upon himself. Everything is for Rasulullah. Imam Bakr Siddique alayhi salam, again, who is the son of Imam Muhammad Bakr, who is the son of Imam Zain al-Abidin, who is the son of Imam Hussein al-Islam. So he is the 6th Imam. If you look at the number of the 12 Imams, he's number 6, Imam Bakr Siddique. He says my connection to Abu Bakr is twice, which it was. He emphasized this point because his connection to Rasulullah was also twice. If you look at the connection of Imam Bakr Siddique alayhi salam, his maternal grandfather is Qasim bin Muhammad bin Abu Bakr. His maternal grandmother is the daughter of Abdul Rahman bin Abu Bakr. So, double connection. On the father's side, his paternal grandfather is, of course, Imam Zain al-Abidin, who is the son of Imam Hussein al-Islam. His paternal grandmother is Fatima bint Hassan bin Ali. So the daughter of Imam Hassan al-Islam. So he has double connection on both sides. And this is, also, when Imam Zaid is the uncle of Imam Bakr Siddique. He is the younger brother, much younger. He was 6 years older than Imam Bakr Siddique, so he's the much younger brother of Imam Muhammad Bakr. So he's one of the sons of Imam Zain al-Abidin. The Zaydi Shias, that's who they refer to as Imam Zaid. Imam Zaid is the first Pir or first Murshid of Imam Abu Hanifa. He's the first one. Even though Hamad was his teacher of fiqh, the first person that he gave bay'ah to was Imam Zaid. When Imam Zaid led an army against Hisham bin Abdul Malik, he came out of Kufa with an army of roughly about 8,000 men. On the way there, they were going to go fight Hisham bin Abdul Malik, who was the crown prince of the Banu Umayyah, who had an army of about 20,000. The people came to Imam Zaid, and they said to him, we are willing to give our lives and our wealth for you if you curse the Shaykhain, meaning curse Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhu. So he said to them, that how can I say anything against those for whom I have heard nothing but praise from my forefathers? Before I get into what happens afterwards, when this army was leaving, Imam Abu Hanifa had given him 30,000 dirham to equip the army. Again, 30,000 dirham is, like today's money, like $10 million. And when Banu Umayyah came and asked Abu Hanifa to give a fatwa against Imam Zaid, he said, Ana min shiyatihi, I am from his people. I am from his group, and I have given him 30,000 dirham. And he also told his students, because Imam Zayd said, you go back and teach, but he told his students, he says, I cannot go, but any one of you who can should go and go and join his army, because the martyrs of this army will be raised with the martyrs of Badr. And so when Imam Zayd said to these people who had come to him that, look, you know, how can I say anything against those who I have heard nothing but praise from my forefathers? Then they said that we leave you. And he says, you are Rawafid. This is where the term comes from, Rafi. He's the one who used this against them, that you have abandoned things. And so this army of 8,000 was shrunk down to an army of 313. And of course, Imam Zayd was martyred, and they crucified his body afterwards, and that gets into a lot of other stuff.
313.
Yeah, 313, just like in Badr. You know, so the connection, if you look at the connection of the Imams, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, to the connection, their connection to the household of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it is very tight. You know, people don't talk about this. This is why they are accepted as the Imams of the Ummah, is because of their connection and their willingness to not only verbally defend them, but to physically defend them. You know, you look at what happened to Imam Malik, all of this was because of his defending the honor of the household of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Why Imam Shafi Rahmatullah had to leave Makkah and then go to Kufa and leave Kufa and go to Egypt where he's murdered. Why? Because of his connection to the household of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, why is he tortured? You know, the issue of the Quran, Khalq al-Quran, but the root of all of that was his connection to the household of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And we see that connection of Abu Bakr Siddique to the household of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's later than I even thought. It's 9:30. I know people are hungry. So inshallah I'll end here. Are there any questions? Quickly. Good. So everyone understood everything, alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us, protect us, and fill our hearts with His true love and the true love of His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of those whom they love, inshallah. Salam, brother. Okay. My dad's going to say something for about 10 minutes, and then we'll do salam and then eat, inshallah.
लगा दो
My wife says, "You are so beautiful as gone now." She might miss my beautiful voice, you know. Inshallah. The love of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the key for salvation. If you don't have it, Allah will not look at you with this much of mercy. He will reject you. Everything we do is nothing but the sunnah of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If that stamp is not our actions, they are rejected from the court of law. So we have to be very careful now. All these fitna that we see around, he was just a postman and he came and gave the Quran and he went back. Now we have to do nothing with him. It's nothing for asking for trouble. So even if a drinker of liquor is haram, sharab is haram in Islam, but even if someone is habitual to that, but he has the love of Prophet ﷺ in his heart, he is better than many of the worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the love of Prophet ﷺ will change him one day, inshallah, before he dies. So I'm going to read a naat from such a poet who was of that kind, you know. Jigar Moradabadi. He was habitual, you know, drinker, and you know, most of us who come from India and Pakistan, they know where Ajmer Sharif is, you know. So there was a mushaira, the kind of competition of poetry over there, and the committee of that place invited him to come and recite a naat, you know. He always wrote ghazal. He never wrote naat, you know. But when they invited him, insisted that you have to come. He started writing, you know? And the love of Prophet so much that the tears, whenever he will write the naat, you know, the tears will flow through his eyes, you know. And so he will do this and then try again. But since he was well versed in writing ghazal, the naat was a different field, you know, in which you have to show the love for Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He had that love in the heart, but now he has put it on the paper, you know. It's very difficult. So he took some days, you know. He kept on writing, then this is not befitting to him, this is not befitting to him, so he kept changing till he prepared. And then he knew that the people will not allow him to recite naat because of his drinking problem. They did not want to hear naat from a person who is a drunkard. He knew that, so the committee told him that you come 3 days before, so people will not be looking for you. Last day, you know, people are, you know, who is coming, who is not. So he reached before time and he was hiding in Ajmer. And the way he went to the stage, same way, he was hiding and he was covered, and all of a sudden when his name was called, he stood up. The moment he stood up, they started hooting. No, we don't want to hear you. We don't want to. And there was kind of big roar in the hall, you know. Anyway, so he tried to calm them down. They wouldn't listen, but he said one sentence, and since we have the love of Prophet ﷺ, everyone calmed down right away. He said that you are hooting at me, or you are hooting at the naat which I have written for Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. You tell me which one you are. If you are hooting on the naat, I'll go back. So they no, we want to hear naat. So anyway, he said. So this is the second, I'm not reading the first one he wrote. This is the second one. And I read it on, then I want you to sing with me the last part. It will take 10 minutes. कौन है वजह तख्लीक़ कौनो मकाम और कोई नहीं है हुजूर आप हैं कौन है वजह तख्लीक़ कौनो मकाम और कोई नहीं है हुजूर आप हैं. This part I want to sing when I say और कोई नहीं है हुजूर आप हैं. The poet is saying that who is the reason for the creation of the this world and the next, you know, Kauna Makan, for both. And then he's saying there's no one else beside you, O Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So he is the reason for the creation of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. That's what he writing. कौन है वजह तख्लीक़ कौनो मकान और कोई now you see everyone those who know or who know or you can try to और तन है और कोई नहीं है हुजूर आप हैं loud और कोई नहीं है हुजूर आप हैं अब्दो माबूद के आज भी दरमियाँ और कोई नहीं है हुजूर आप हैं माहो खुर्शीद लहो कलम आपके माहो खुर्शीद लहो कलम आपके कहकशां साज नक्शे कदम आपके کہکشاں ساز نقش قدم آپ کے، زینت بحر و بر رونق آسمان، اور کوئی نہیں ہے حضور آپ ہیں، اور کوئی نہیں ہے حضور آپ ہیں. He's saying that Maha Khurshid, the moon and the sun, Laho Qalam, the tablet and the pen, they belong to you. And when you walk, your footsteps, the prints, they create the Milky Way. That's it, beautiful. And then this ocean and dry land are kind of lighted because of you. And the sky is also, kind of lighted with your nur. And then there is no, you are the one who. مرکز وہی رب آپ کی ذات ہے، مرکز وہی رب آپ کی ذات ہے، لب پہ قرآن کے آپ کی بات ہے، ہر عبادت کی جان شامل ہر اذاں، اور کوئی نہیں ہے حضور آپ ہیں، اور کوئی نہیں ہے حضور آپ ہیں. The center of the wahi, the focus of the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your personality, is you. And then on the lips of the Quran is talking about you. And then you are in every ibadah, every worship we do, you have to mention his name. And when you call adhan, shamil har adhan, in every call for prayer, you are there. Regarding now, دولت علم و دانش عطا آپ کی، دولت علم و دانش عطا آپ کی، بات کرتا نہیں رد خدا آپ کی، بات کرتا نہیں رد خدا آپ کی، دھڑکنوں میں نہاں ماورائے گماں، اور کوئی نہیں ہے حضور آپ ہیں، اور کوئی نہیں ہے حضور آپ ہیں. This wealth and ilm, the knowledge and the brain, danish and aql, it is given by you to us, because we look at you and we learn from you. And whatever you ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he does not reject. Okay? And you are hidden in the beating of our hearts. And this is, I'm sure about that, without any doubt or suspicion. You are hidden there, but I have to bring it out. So that's why it's here. آپ کا ہر عمل آپ کی ہر ادا، جس سے قائم ہے معیار انسان کا، حرف قرآن ناطق خدا کی زبان، اور کوئی نہیں ہے حضور آپ ہیں، اور کوئی نہیں ہے حضور آپ ہیں. Every action you do is the standard, is the basis of the standard of the humanity. So you do nothing except to support the humanity. And the Quran, they are the word of Allah, but the tongue is used to make it Quran, nothing. It's walking and speaking Quran. Beautiful. رب روز جزا کس کا نام آئے گا، رب روز جزا کس کا نام آئے گا، کون میدان محشر میں کام آئے گا، کون میدان محشر میں کام آئے گا، کس کے دم سے ہے یہ، کس کے دم سے ہے یہ کاروبار جہاں، اور کوئی نہیں ہے حضور آپ ہیں، اور کوئی نہیں ہے حضور آپ ہیں. when we will in the hereafter and the judgment will be taking place, who the people will going to? The Prophet ﷺ to ask for intercession. So everyone of the creation will be talking about Prophet ﷺ and asking him to come to their aid, And because of you, this whole world is running around. Now, आपकी गुफ्तगू का असर देखिए, आपकी गुफ्तगू का असर देखिए, बाखबर हो गए बेखबर देखिए, बाखबर हो गए बेखबर देखिए, कौन एजाज ऐसा है मोजिज़ नुमा और कोई नहीं है हुजूर आप हैं. When you talk, or gave the message, then those who did not know anything, they became scholars. So this is the miracle of your talking. There's nothing, no one else, just you for that. अब तो माबूद के आज भी दरमियाँ और कोई नहीं है हुजूर आप हैं. अब तो माबूद के आज भी दरमियाँ और कोई नहीं है हुजूर आप हैं. अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद व अला आलि सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद व बारिक वसल्लम. ये सलाम इनका है, इनका पर मैं पढ़ लेता हूँ. This salam is for Abu Bakr radhiyallahu ta'ala. He was the ear of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As-salam ay Hazrat Samay Rasool. As-salam ay Sayyidi Rasool. As-salam ay Hamir Khizr Subul. As-salam ay Muhsin Khatmur Rasul. As-salam ay Hasn Siddiq Sadiq. As-salam ay Nur Tamid Atiq. السلام جامع قرآن حق. السلام شعر فرقان حق. السلام مصطفیٰ کے یار غار، یار دنیا یار دین یار مزار. السلام صاحب سیر جمیل. السلام عامر امر جمیل. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى سيدنا محمد.
یا نبی سلام علیکہ، یا رسول سلام علیکہ، یا حبیب سلام علیکہ، صلوات اللہ علیکہ. تم حبیب کبریا ہو اور امام الانبیاء ہو، دو جہاں کے پیشوا ہو، شفیع روز جزا ہو. یا نبی سلام علیکہ، یا رسول سلام علیکہ، یا حبیب سلام علیکہ، صلوات اللہ علیکہ. مرض اسیہ کو مٹانا، نیک مجھ کو تم بنانا، راہ سنت پر چلانا، اپنی الفت میں گمانا. یا نبی سلام علیکہ، یا رسول سلام علیکہ، یا حبیب سلام علیکہ، صلوات اللہ علیکہ. آخری لمحے جب آئے کاش وہ تشریف لائے اپنے جلووں میں گمائے جھوم کر ہم گنگنائے یا نبی سلام علیکہ یا رسول سلام علیکہ یا حبیب سلام علیکہ صلوات اللہ علیکہ رحمتوں کے تاج والے دو جہاں کے راج والے آسیوں کی لاج والے عرش کی معراج والے یا نبی سلام علیکہ یا رسول سلام علیکہ یا حبیب سلام علیکہ صلوات اللہ علیکہ
یا رسول اللہ سلام علیک یا حبیب اللہ سلام علیک یا رسول اللہ سلام علیک یا حبیب اللہ سلام علیک نور ظاہر کی صورت پہ لاکھوں سلام حسن باطن کی سیرت پہ لاکھوں سلام آپ عین خدا ہے نہ غیر خدا وحدت آرا حقیقت پہ لاکھوں سلام حق نوا حق دفاع حق ادا حق نما حق کی عین مشیت پہ لاکھوں سلام شجرۂ انبیاء کا گل سرسبد نوبہار رسالت پہ لاکھوں سلام یا رسول اللہ سلام علیک یا حبیب اللہ سلام علیک آل کی عینیت پر ہزاروں درود اور امامت ولایت پہ لاکھوں سلام جس نے امت پر اولاد قربان کی اس زعیم شفاعت پہ لاکھوں سلام حسن اخلاق جس کو ملا آپ کا اس سزاوار رحمت پہ لاکھوں سلام جانشی کربلا میں جو تھا آپ کا اس کی عزم شہادت پہ لاکھوں سلام جس سے قائم ہے دین جس سے قائم جہاں اس شفیع قیامت پہ لاکھوں سلام جن کو حق نے کہا ہے عزیز عزیز ان کے اصحاب عزت پہ لاکھوں سلام یا رسول اللہ سلام علیک یا حبیب اللہ سلام علیک یا رسول اللہ سلام علیک یا حبیب اللہ سلام علیک
اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة من ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. یا اللہ ہمیں یہ چھوٹی سی محفل حضرت ابو بکر رضی اللہ تعالیٰ کی یاد میں سجائے اللہ، اسے اپنی برگاہ اور آگے میں قبول فرما لے اللہ. یا اللہ اپنے حبیب کی بارگاہ میں قبول فرما. یا اللہ حضرت ابو بکر رضی اللہ عنہ کی بارگاہ میں قبول فرما. یا اللہ یا اللہ ہم سب کو خلفائے راشدین کی محبت عطا فرما. یا اللہ اہل بیت سے محبت عطا فرما. یا اللہ صحابہ کرام سے محبت عطا فرما. اپنے اور اپنے حبیب کی محبت عنایت فرما. یا اللہ ہم میں جو بیمار ان کو شفا کاملہ عطا فرما. یا اللہ اور جنہوں نے کاروبار شروع کیا اللہ ان کے کاروبار میں برکت دے. یا اللہ ہم سب کو حق حلال کھانے کی توفیق عطا فرما. یا اللہ ہمارے روزوں کو اللہ حق حلال بنا دے. یا اللہ یا ارحم الراحمین یا اکرم الاکرمین. دنیا اسلام پہ ہر طرف سے مصیبتیں آئی ہیں، مسلمانوں پہ ظلم ہو رہا ہے. یا اللہ تو غیب سے مدد فرما. یا اللہ ہم کمزور اتنے ہو گئے کہ ہم سے کچھ نہیں بن پاتا. یا اللہ ہمیں طاقت عنایت فرما. ہماری کوئی اسلام کی کوئی طاقت اور جہاد کی یا اللہ جہاد کا شوق ہمیں عنایت فرما. یا اللہ ہم سب کو شہیدوں کی موت عطا فرما. یا اللہ یا ارحم الراحمین یا اکرم الاکرمین. نبی کے رسول درجات کو بلند فرما. خلفائے راشدین کے درجات کو بلند فرما. بلند فرما. اہل بیت کے درجات کو بلند فرما. بزرگان دین کے درجات کو بلند فرما. یا ارحم الراحمین. یا اللہ ہم سب گناہ گار ہیں، ہمارے گناہوں کی بخشش فرما دے. ہمارے والدین کو بخش دے. یا اللہ ہمارے دوست احباب عزیز و قریب سب کو بخش دے. یا اللہ جنہوں نے محفل سجائی اور جو یہاں پہ آئے اللہ ان سب کو یا اللہ اپنی رحمت میں لے لے. یا اللہ اور جو نہ آ سکے اللہ ان کے جو رحمت میں لے لے. اللہ کھانا پکانے کی محنت اور ہم لوگ جو کھانے آئے اللہ سب کو اس میں برکت عطا فرمائے. یا اللہ یا اللہ ہمیں اس قسم کی مجلس میں کرنے اور انہیں اٹینڈ کرنے کی توفیق عطا فرمائے. یا اللہ یا اللہ تو کا ارشاد یا اللہ نبی کریم صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کا صدقہ، ان کے آل کے صدقہ، ان کے اولاد کے صدقہ، ان کے اصحاب کے صدقہ. یا اللہ ہم سب کو یا اللہ ہم سب کو یا اللہ آخرت میں اللہ کوئی عذاب سے بچا دیجیے. اللہ نبی کریم سے جو شفاعت عنایت فرمائیے. یا اللہ ان کی کالی کملی چھپانے کی توفیق عطا فرمائیے. یا اللہ صلی اللہ تعالیٰ علیہ خیر محمد وآلہ وصحبہ. اور ہمارے بھائی نبی خان اللہ گر گئے ہیں، چوٹ لگی انہیں، ان کے شفا کاملہ اللہ صلی اللہ تعالیٰ علیہ.
Assalamualaikum. Announcement, we're going to have a Isra Miraj program on the 21st of March, but it's going to be in Milton, Georgia at the Turkish Cultural Center. You can go there. We had one